it turns the TV on. Cool, it works. So now I'm going to show you the second cool thing about it. I like to show my house who's bitch. When I tell it to do something, I want it to do it. So we're going to go into voice commands. So, yeah. Sorry, got lost in the train of thought there. Click the options button and go to voice commands. Go create/modify voice commands. So we're going to scroll down to where it says power. Click the record button. Power. 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 You have to say the command 3 times, as it'll tell you on the screen. You want to hold it in different positions each time so that it gets a general feeling of your voice, and it knows, so you don't have to have your pocket PC like right here every time you go to say it. Now that we're done, I just click the X, exit out of it. Make sure the voice commands, make sure it's listening, which it is. So let's try it. TV, power, lights, power, and it works. Hope you enjoyed this segment. Check the show notes for more information.
In this segment, I want to show some Nintendo DS homebrew. Don't give me any shit about what's better, a PSP or Nintendo DS. This is not a comparison. I'm just here to show you what's available for the Nintendo DS. Now, in front of me I've got a standard Nintendo DS Lite, and I've got my M3 Lite adapter. The M3 Lite adapter is actually a custom-tailored card to fit explicitly in the Nintendo DS perfectly. In the DS Lite perfectly. Now, there are swap-out cartridges, so you can put it in a standard DS or a Game Boy Advance. This is called the Slot 2 card, the Game Boy Advance card. The top up here is the Slot 1. Now, if you want to boot code off your Game Boy Advance slot, you need this card called a Pass-Me, or a passkey, depending on which company you're getting it from. This is a bootloader card that allows you to load code off your Nintendo DS Game Boy Advance slot. You put the card in, it has its own proprietary bootloader, and then it drops you into whatever code you got on your cartridge. I'm not going to get into discrepancies of how to use your own card. Read the manual. Now, these Slot 2 cards nowadays are using trans-flash cards. Trans-flash SD or micro SD. They are very, very small. One day wouldn't be surprised if I actually saw a bunny turd that said 1 gig micro SD across it. These things are very small. Earlier cards before this used standard SD cards, and the cards before that used compact flash. Now, of course, things have evolved, and they have actually come up with Slot 1 cards, where there's a card that is the exact size of a Nintendo DS card, and you can put a trans-flash card in. This, I believe, is called the M3 Perfect. There's also the R4 card, where there's a small little jack on here where you plug your card into your computer, and you can transfer code directly to 4 gigabits of internal space. I personally like the idea of upgradability with the SD cards, so I went with the M3. I endorse their products. They have never given me a problem, and they are very top quality. You have to be careful when doing research for whatever kind of card solution that you want. Make sure you're getting the features that you want. Now, there are some little bitchy discrepancies I don't like about the M3. They go into saying how they have all of these features like a PDA, which really isn't exactly a PDA. You have to put the files onto your card via their PDA application, which is poorly coded in Visual Basic by Asian people that can hardly speak English, so the manual is very, very hard to understand, if not completely useless. They say that out of the box, the M3 movie player can play movies and music. What they don't tell you is you have to convert all of your movies and music down to a format that they can use on their Crystal engine, which I actually showed you in the Game Boy Advance segment. So, make sure you're not going to get bit in the ass when it comes to getting a card. Just get what you need. Don't break the bank and get more features than you need. Now, I'm trying to pack a lot of information into this segment, so I'm going to try to make this quick. There's something called DLDI, or Dynamically Linked Driver Interface. Because these things use either a FAT16 or a FAT32 or possibly even a FAT12 card, they actually, a couple of really clever coders created a driver subsystem that people can code into their homebrew, where you can actually patch the ROM file So you can natively read FAT12, FAT16, or FAT32 depending on what card type you have. Now there's a lot of different card types out there, there's a lot of memory card types out there, there's a lot of SRAM types, a lot of file systems. So let's go to the computer side and I'll show you a little bit about how to patch the DLDI system. Okay, so here we are at the DLDI, or the Dynamically Linked Device Interface for the Nintendo DS. This is the main website. What you're going to have to do is go ahead and download some files. The first thing you have to download is the Windows 32 command line, and I'd get the graphical user interface as well. There's also command line for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS X. So, once you get that, if you've noticed, there's a very large list of DLDI files for different types of cards. There's default, which is no device, Ace card, DS Link, DSX, blah blah blah. Now, I have an M3. I have an M3 SD card. So I've already gone ahead and I've downloaded this DLDI file. Now, I'm going to go into the DLDI folder. I've extracted everything to a common folder. I'm going to run the DLDI tool. Now, normally it'll ask you where your DLDI files are. I've already pointed it to the appropriate directory. And the only one I've downloaded is the one for the M3 adapter for the SD card, because that's the only card I have. And then over here you can actually add your binaries, your Game Boy, your Nintendo DS or Game Boy Advance homebrew code, and then hit your patch button, and it'll automatically patch for the DLDI support that you have. Now, that is that when it comes to DLDI. Now, DLDI can be a little finicky, a little bitchy, and very complicated to use. So if you get a chunk of homebrew code, which usually comes in two formats, in either a .GBA for Game Boy Advance cards to load off of your slot 2, or an NDS, which you load off of your Nintendo DS card. I can load Nintendo DS code off of my cartridge. The .GBA is really for the older cards that use the original SD card or have an older firmware on the card. So, if you have a slot 2 card and then the NDS file isn't loading, try the GBA. And if you get any kind of errors when your program's loading up, then it's most likely because you didn't patch the appropriate FAT. Now, I've noticed that some programs that really don't even require the DLDI support will only run if I actually put the DLDI support. This is just another discrepancy with the M3 adapter. So if something doesn't work, keep on trying. Hit the forums, hit show notes, go online, hit Google, and you can probably get all the help that you need there. Now, let's get into a little bit of the homebrew, shall we? Before we begin, I have to apologize for any kind of shaky camera or whatnot. I gotta give my camera a reach around to do this, so just bear with me. Here we have a standard Nintendo DS booting up. This is the pass card booting up, and here's my card saying not licensed or sponsored by Nintendo. Now we're gonna go into the game menu. And the first thing I want to showcase is Moonshell, once I get down to it. Moonshell is an alternate graphical environment. Oh, shut up. Shut up. Alright. Moonshell is a graphical environment for the Nintendo DS. It's also a loader and a menu system. It's also got a built-in movie player, MP3 player, ebook reader, photo viewer, and text file reader, clock, alarm clock, whole bunch of great stuff. Highly would recommend Moonshell. As you can see, I got a bunch of music just sitting on my card. Go through the songs. It's also got a fully graphical interface. This shows help, it shows ID3 tags, it'll show a whole bunch of stuff. And it's actually a really good looking shell nonetheless. Let's go over to the PC side now. I can show you how to put together Moonshell, because it's got so many features I can't even describe them all. Okay, so I've showed you a couple of the features of Moonshell. It does everything that you need. I honestly wish that was the default shell for my card. Some cards don't come with a shell. Moonshell is the shell to get. So back on the computer side here, we're going to go, and I've already downloaded Moonshell from the from the website, just Google search for Moonshell.